Eddy Curry entered the NBA straight out of high school when the Chicago Bulls selected him with the fourth overall pick in the 2001 NBA draft. He was a massive, skilled center standing 6 foot 11 inches and weighed around 285 pounds. People were really excited about him because he had such a unique combination of size and soft touch around the basket. His early years with the Bulls showed flashes of what made him so intriguing. He had these incredibly soft hands and could score in the post with surprising finesse for such a big guy. By his fourth season in Chicago, he was putting up pretty solid numbers, averaging around 16 points and 6 rebounds per game. Eddy Curry's time with the Bulls is quite an interesting chapter in both Chicago Bulls and NBA history. Curry joined the Bulls straight out of Thornwood High School in Illinois. When they picked him fourth overall in the 2001 NBA draft, he was just 18 years old, a local kid from the Chicago area, and the Bulls had high hopes that they had found the next dominant center. His rookie season was really a learning experience. Playing behind veteran Brad Miller, Curry averaged about 6.7 points and 3.8 rebounds in limited minutes, but you could see flashes of his potential. He had these incredibly soft hands and a natural touch around the basket that you can rarely see in someone that big. Things started picking up in his second season. The Bulls gave him more playing time, and he responded by improving his scoring to 10.5 points per game. What was really impressive was his field goal percentage. He shot over 58% from the field, showing that efficiency that made scouts drool over his potential. The 2003-2004 season was when Curry really started to show what he could do. He became a full-time starter and averaged 14.7 points per game. His combination with Tyson Chandler, another high school to pro player, were starting to look promising, though they were still figuring things out. His final season with the Bulls was actually his best in Chicago. He put up 16.1 points per game and shot an impressive 53.8 from the field. However, this season ended on a concerning note when he experienced heart problems near the end of the season. He missed the last 13 games of the year due to this issue. The heart condition ultimately led to some controversy and played a role in the departure from Chicago. The Bulls wanted him to take a DNA test to check for a potential serious heart condition, but Curry declined. This standoff eventually led to him being traded to the New York Knicks before the 2005 and 2006 season. Looking back at his Bulls tenure, it's a bit of what could have been story. He showed steady improvement each year, and at just 22 years old when he left Chicago, he seemed poised for even bigger things. While his time with the Bulls wasn't a failure by any means, he developed from a raw rookie to a legitimate NBA center. There was always this sense that he could have been even more with his natural talents. Now, Eddy Curry's time with the Knicks, it was quite a roller coaster story. Curry arrived in New York in 2005 through a pretty significant trade. The Knicks took a big gamble on him, despite the heart conditions that led to his departure from Chicago. They were desperately looking for a franchise center, and Curry seemed like he could be their guy. His first season in New York, 2005-2006, was solid, with him averaging 13.6 points and 6 rebounds per game. But it was the 2006-2007 season when Curry really looked like he might fulfill his potential. That year was honestly his career peak. He put up 19.5 points per game and looked like a legitimate offensive force. He had this great chemistry with guard Stephon Marbury, and his soft touch around the basket was really clicking. Knicks fans were starting to get excited, thinking they had found their answer at center. But then things started to unravel. The 2007-2008 season saw his numbers drop to 13.2 points per game, and his conditioning became a major issue. By the 2008-2009 season, things got really rough. He only played in 3 games due to a combination of injuries and conditioning problems. His weight became a constant topic in the New York media. The 2009-2010 season wasn't any better. He played in just 7 games. It was pretty tough to watch, especially considering how promising things had looked in the 2006-2007 season. Off-court issues and personal tragedies also affected him during this period, which made his struggles even more challenging. What made this period particularly frustrating for Knicks fans was the contract situation. Curry was making substantial money, around $10 million per year, and his declining performance and availability made him virtually untradeable. This really hampered the Knicks' ability to rebuild during these years. By the time his Knicks tenure ended, it had become a cautionary tale about the risk of big contracts and unfulfilled potential. That one great season in 06-07 showed what could have been, but unfortunately it ended up being the peak rather than some beginning of something special. The really interesting thing about Curry's time with the Knicks is how it showcased the challenges of player development in the NBA. Here was a guy with incredible natural talent. I mean, how many 285-pound centers have you seen with such a soft touch around the basket? But talent alone isn't enough at the NBA level. And unfortunately, Curry's story with the Knicks became more of about a what could have been than what actually was. Eddy Curry's time with the Heat is a pretty short but interesting chapter in his career, and hey, it actually ended with him getting an NBA championship ring. After his struggles in New York, Curry was given a chance to revive his career with the Miami Heat in the 2011-2012 season, and the Heat took a low-risk gamble on him, signing him to join their star-studded team that included LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. Before joining the team, Curry had to work really hard on his conditioning. He reportedly lost around 70 pounds to get his opportunity with Miami. The Heat were intrigued by his potential as a backup big man. Even after all his struggles, he still had those naturally soft hands and touch around the basket that made him special. But his actual playing time with the Heat was pretty limited. He only appeared in 14 regular season games, averaging just 5.9 minutes per game. However, there was a silver lining to the story. While he didn't play much, Curry was part of the Heat team that won the NBA championship that season, defeating the Oklahoma City Thunder in the finals. Even though he didn't play in the playoffs, he still got a championship ring, something not many players can say they have. The Heat experiment was essentially Curry's last real shot in the NBA. While it wasn't the comeback story some might have hoped for, at least he got to the NBA journey as part of a championship team. It's kind of poetic that a career that started with such high expectations ended with him getting a ring, even if not in the way anyone would have predicted when he was drafted back in 2001. What I find particularly interesting about his tenure with the Heat is how it shows that sometimes even being in a great environment with top players and excellent coaching staff isn't enough to fully reignite a career. Still, getting that championship ring must have been a pretty sweet way to essentially close out his NBA journey. Curry's time with the Mavericks was really brief. It was actually his final stop in the NBA. After getting a championship ring with Miami, Curry signed with Dallas just before the 2012-2013 season started. In fact, he was added to the roster literally right before the season opener. The Mavericks were looking for some center depth, and they brought Curry in, thinking he might be able to provide some offensive punch off the bench. His Mavericks career started with a little bit of promise. He actually got the start in the season opener against the Lakers and scored 7 points in 16 minutes. Not too shabby for someone who hadn't played meaningful minutes in years. People were kind of rooting for him to make this work, But that's about as good as it got. He only appeared in 2 games total for the Mavericks, averaging 4.5 points and 2 rebounds in about 12.5 minutes per game. The team waived him after just a week, on October 30th, 2012, making his stint with Dallas extremely short. This ended up being Curry's final stop in the NBA. The whole thing lasted less than 2 weeks, but at least he got to start one more NBA game before his career wrapped up. After Dallas, he played briefly in China, but his NBA journey was over. It's kind of a bittersweet way to end his NBA career to end, especially for someone who entered the league with such high expectations as the 4th overall pick in the 2001 draft. But that's sometimes how careers wind down in the NBA. Not with a bang, but with a brief stint on a team looking for depth. Looking back, Curry's career is often seen as a what-if story. He had this remarkable natural talent. Teammates used to marvel at how someone so big could have been such a delicate touch around the basket. But for various reasons, including those of condition issues and health concerns, he never quite reached the potential that made him such a high draft pick. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. Stay safe.